Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Monday Night Must See TV here with the Hudson Valley Squares. We've got just a few squares tonight and some very special guests who you've seen many times before. We've got the birthday boy, Luis Nasser. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, buddy.
What's going on? We've got Rick LaBonte from Canada, also from In the Prague Seat and various other shows on the channel. We've got Martin Popoff from Friday Morning at the Funhouse with myself, and Martin fills in everywhere here on the channel. We love having Martin. And then we've got our regulars. We got Sydney Taylor. We got in the center square once again, Butch 3 weeks in a row, Butch Jones.
Going for the hat.
And Ryan Scow up in the top right. At least that's what I see. So before we get started, I do want to dedicate this show to a very special guy who means a lot to folks here in the Hudson Valley, and we lost him just a couple days ago. And this show is dedicated to Frank Pallett, owner of The Chance. Frank, rest in peace, my friend. We're going to miss you, buddy. And just wanted to kind of throw that out there. I know the rest of us here in the Hudson Valley loved him a lot and everything that he's meant to this community for so many years. And thanks for everything, Frank.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So today, this is kind of a part two. So last week we picked our favorite heavy metal debut albums. We're trying really hard to kind of differentiate heavy metal and hard rock. I know there's a lot of lines that get blurred, but today is kind of part two. So today we're going to look at our favorite hard rock debut albums. Okay. So, and the cool thing about kind of doing the hard rock thing is we can go back into the 60s and into the 70s before really heavy metal became a thing, became a term. So, and then of course, there's lots of good stuff that have come out in more recent years. So we've each picked five. I know we have lots of honorable mentions, so we'll get to them second go around. We're going to have the birthday boy. Here's what we're going to do today. We're going to have Luis, Rick, Martin, Sydney, Butch, Ryan, and myself, and then we'll go back around with honorables. So the birthday boy, Mr. Nasser, what are you, 35 today, right?
Oh no, I'm 52.
Just joking.
and it's worse. It's not just the age; it's the mileage. You really feel that. But all right. So just to understand, I do all five, and then next person does all five. All right. So I'm gonna pick. Oh, there we go. Burn it.
A commercial for my friend there.
Thank you. I'm gonna pick records that I really like, that I also think that are not going to be chosen by other people, because I know, right, that if we have Rick, then he's going to mention the Uriah Heep, and I know, I know some things, right? So rather than just jump on the same records that we all love, right, I just wanted to mention some records that I actually really, really like, that I know I'm almost 100% sure you guys are not going to mention. So I'm just going to mention those, all right? So the first one that I want to mention, which I consider hard rock, because it's not really metal and it's not anything else, is this debut, which again is going to annoy some people, but zero fucks given. Rage Against the Machine debut. Oh. I know that this is not what people like when they think of hard rock, but to me, I heard that record when it came out and I was completely blown away by it. I'd never heard anything quite like it. And it's just brilliant. I mean, Tom Morello may not be a shred boy, but he did some really interesting things with the guitar. He's the only guy I ever saw play a solo using only his cable. I'm just saying, the guy did some cool shit.
He did.
This record is fantastic, right? So for me, Rage Against the Machine, the debut. I mean, the songs here, come on. Killing in the Name, Bullet in the Head. This is a great record, right? So for me, I love this. This is my number five. Another record that I would be remiss in not mentioning, because I think it's a classic for a reason, and I think that it really, really, it just stunned me when it came out, because I bought it without any expectation, just as a cassette. And it's the only thing this band ever did that I actually genuinely liked. After that, it was like a big change somehow. Was Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. I love this record.
Sydney.
I love this record. I know I did preface, and I did say that there are zero.
No. That's not what we're saying. That's
right.
not, I think we all can appreciate that record. That's a great fucking record.
It is a great
100%.
record. And again, after this record, I really kind of lost interest completely. And eventually, when they released, Chinese Democracy, that was actually Spinal Tap-ish in many ways. So I'm not really into that. But this record, I think, is a perfect record. Truly, start to finish. I don't skip any songs. Even all these years later, I can still play it every now and then if I pace myself, and I'm really going to enjoy it.
If I pace myself.
Yeah. I can't listen to it all the time, but I can give myself a little breaks. And it's a good record. So I dig that. Now, let's see. This is another record which when it came out, I really, really enjoyed. And again, I consider this hard rock. I know there are subgenres and all these things, but honestly, I'm not a librarian. I'm a musician mostly, and I don't really understand all these, So for me, Alice in Chains' Facelift is a great hard rock debut. I mean, this record just kicks all kinds of ass.
See, for me, I love that record, but the argument I always get in with people is I call that a metal record, and everyone else calls it alternative.
That's right. So,
and it's not alternative to me at all.
Yeah, it's a little heavier than Mountain, let's say, for sure. But it's not fucking Fire, right? It's not Emperor. So,
no,
certainly not Emperor. No.
I can't really place it in the metal bracket. In my head, it's like just,
I like that. Mountain Emperor.
So
Alice in Chains right in the middle, right?
Okay. Another one. I also had the Mountain just in case, because you never know.
That's a great album.
Well,
it is a
take
great
that one out, Pete.
Great album.
Here's one that is gonna annoy.
Trust me,
I know it is.
This is gonna annoy the man bourboning with a cozy fucking Powell shirt. This is gonna annoy you. But again, when this came out, I really liked this record. It caused a lot of people I know a lot of problems, including people who I played with in bands. But I genuinely liked it. Again, like the Guns N' Roses, is the only thing these guys did that I really liked, that really connected with me. And this is Pearl Jam, the first one. I can sense the clenching.
I love Pearl Jam.
I'm
on board with Pearl Jam, yeah.
But I love this record.
That first record, it had an impact.
And I'm sorry, but even the lyrics are great, which is not usually to find. This is just a good record.
You know what? It sold a bazillion copies. I'm just never gonna buy into it. I don't get it. I don't get from a year or two before everyone was talking about happy stuff, drinking and having a good time, and then all of a sudden it's talking about a kid killing a kid in school. What?
I know. But where I came from in Mexico City, that vibe that made a lot of sense to me.
To a lot of people.
So it really talked to me. In the same way that the Rage Against the Machine talked to me. Whereas, Van Halen, that's a brilliant record, right? The debut is just, but I knew somebody was going to pick it. So I have it, but I'm not going to talk about it because I don't mean to be a complete dick, but I did want to mention Pearl Jam because I know these guys are never, ever going to be mentioned here. And I thought it was time. So here it is, fucking Pearl Jam debut.
Okay, that's enough. Move on.
It's a great album.
Everybody's got their Pearl Jam ready to go.
That's it.
The reality is what that.
And then, just to be, just to bring things back, right? I'm not sure which. I'll probably leave the other one to the honorable mentions because of this idea whether it's metal or not. But definitely, this is what I would consider hard rock. And this is a debut by Blue Murder.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
With, of course, our boy, John Sykes.
That a boy.
Lewis came prepared. There you go.
We gotta get there.
Yeah, I am not bourboning. I am drinking tequila, but it's,
Nobody's holding the milk carton.
Oh, hey, shut up.
This is really, really a brilliant record. And I love every track on this. It's just great. So
no arguments here.
Good choice.
Cool.
There we go. And there's plenty of honorable mentions for later if we want to get into that.
Absolutely, absolutely, cool. All right, Rick, you're up.
Okay, this is a tough task, really it is. But I'm gonna go with that first listen, when you hear an album and it really kind of blew your mind away, and being that this particular album, it's unfortunate because this band, if you had an album like this, you think your whole life would be sweet, rose petals at your feet, and the red carpet, and the whole 9 yards. Unfortunately, they never produced another album that can meet to this that potent. And I'm getting back to 1973. We're talking about Montrose, great hard
Okay,
rock.
Pete, take it out, Pete.
Pull that one out of your pile, Pete.
There you go. Right? I mean, this
I'm so happy I came with 25 choices today, man.
Well, and I'm glad you told me to be prepared because I'll be pulling them out all the rest of you guys out. And we have honorable mentions that will be slipping out through because we'll probably mention them anyhow. But this album, right, it was unfortunate because you would think if you even did somewhat carbon copy another version of this, you're going to have a major following. I mean, because this is such a great hard rock record, and especially when you think about what was going on in that time. Alice Cooper, Billion Dollar Babies, Grand Funk Railroad, we're American Band, House of the Holy. For a first album, this sound just as equal as that kind of quality, you know what I mean? Most albums are very low budget in some cases or don't have the resources, and this has it on. And it's just too bad that the wind was taken out of this sale to really enjoy
the second album had basically the same lineup, and like, what happened?
Yeah.
Hey, Martin, not to derail the conversation, but Martin, so you talked to Bill quite a bit. Did he give any insight as to what happened with that second album and why, like, everything that worked so well at the debut just kind of backfired on that second album?
Definitely. The main reason is that Ronnie has this built-in mechanism to blow things up, and he also had a big ego, so he wanted to sing a song on the album. Sammy wanted it to be a heavy album again, and Ronnie just wanted to do something different. That's the other thing. He's really restless, and he wants to change things up all the time.
Yeah.
What a shame. And that obviously came to haunt him later.
Yeah.
So the next choice, similar to that kind of experience, and again, I was born in 1970, so when this came out, I was 13, and to me, this spelled hard rock in capital letters for a kid. I mean, this only would get replaced a year later in 1984 when Slide It In would be the next thing I would listen to, and Perfect Strangers. But up to this point, this got so much I would say record and tape play because I carried around Fastway, the very first album.
Oh, yeah.
Was really a powerful rocker for me.
Take it out, Pete.
What up, Pete?
Okay, so I mean, I thought that was one of those songs that's always start to finish. It was like used to make me want to roller skate or ride my bike fast as a kid, and I was that kid with the Walkman all the time. So,
Yeah.
So I mean, there's more. I feel like I'm neglecting some, but we're gonna get back to it.
We
later.
all do. It torments me every week.
I just don't want to be tossing and turning that night. But anyway, this was another one around the same time. I'm 13. I'm starting to collect, and I'm on the Columbia House, and like you see this logo everywhere in the Canadian schools, even grade school, high school. I have graffiti all my math books, my binders with this logo, and this album was very important for me because imagine three people sounding so big and do all that, and of course Canadian owned, so there's a pride there too, and so Working Man was a big deal because Cleveland would be the one that they thought they discovered an unknown Zeppelin track, the way it was just told to us when we were in kid, and we would hear Detroit radio. See, I live so far that I don't even get Toronto. I live closer to Detroit, and I would get all that rock and roll. And Cleveland to some degree. But this was a game changer for me to hear this what rock and roll. And again, little did I know they would become even better. And see, this is one of those few bands that actually have a great mark to make, but they excel. Some of the bands that we talk about, sometimes the best album is that one and never quite make that day again, And then we have bands that we love. that took a while to get a few albums and get their bearings, like UFO, Thin Lizzy, a few albums to get Nazareth, they come to mind. But some guys, they get it right off the bat, and that's my next choice. Obviously, my buddy already kind of not stole my thunder, but give the unpredictable, predictable. Uriah Heep is here. Very heavy and very humble.
I think this show should just be about trying to knock Pete's list out.
I'm doing that, right? Hey, fine with that.
And I like, right on, buddy. Great mind think alike. See, that's what's great about being on the show.
Yeah.
You're in a community that can appreciate music and got a collection like ours. And of course, Led Zeppelin was the very first experience for me. Even though there's a couple tunes on here that are blues, right? And I would say even the same year, Led Zeppelin 2 made a more impact on the hard rock message. But being that this Good Times, Bad, still to this day as a cover band sometimes, I open my show with Good Times, Bad Times. I mean, every album that we mentioned, I play a tune after those albums that we already talked about so far. Why? Because everybody loved it, and still to this day, you don't get bored of it. It's still timeless, and that's an amazing thing about music like this. So I got more to mention.
Cool.
Hey, Pete, what are you down to, 18 now?
You're pulling them out left and right, man.
Keep going. I'm sorry. It's
And you know what, Butch? I just realized that I forgot one, a really, really good one, but I know you're going to pick me up on it, so I'm not too worried about it now. So I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, on to Martin.
Yeah. So what I decided with this is I was going to be absolutely perfectly responsible, and I was going to have nothing that I was going to pull out of the list, because I almost wanted this to come out almost like nobody do any substitutions, and it becomes almost a ranking show where there's 5 or 6 or 7, and we see where the obvious true answers to this truly rank, and nobody substitutes anything out. So I thought, this is going to be a boring list, but I wanted to be completely responsible. But I'll start with one that probably nobody's going to name, and I have a reason to pick this one here, which I'll explain. Europe's first album. So before I even knew that there was a difference between hard rock and heavy metal and what we were supposed to do here, I was like ruling out later things because of the idea that as time goes on and everybody just becomes more woke to all the types of music that are around, it's harder to screw up and make a low budget or a clueless debut or something that sounds like a demo or anything like that. So I thought, bands from the 90s or the 2000s, you're almost like expected to have a pretty good debut anyways, so it's less remarkable. Right. So this is the only thing I have from the 80s, and I defend picking this as a later thing because they're young guys. Look how young they are. They're in Sweden. Sweden is still like out to lunch. They aren't completely the awesome Sweden that they would be, frankly, by about 1985, putting out all this great post-new wave of British heavy metal stuff. But so they're young guys. They're doing this in Sweden. It's their debut. And another reason is that they never made a record this good ever again. And this album just like rocks start to finish. It's got a couple of things that are a little bit ballad-like, but in the future to come. Seven Doors Hotel, Children of This Time, Paradise Bay. There's so many killer Swedish frostcore, well recorded, well put together, great playing, great singing from Joey Tempest. John Norum's on here, but look, they're just kids, right? And this literally is probably, this is like the Swedish new wave of Swedish heavy metal's version of the first Def Leppard album. It just stands apart from everything else. And it's some young kids on their first album. So there's a good reason to pick that one.
Wings of Tomorrow is pretty damn good, though.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Fuck with John Norum.
And actually, I would say, as Pete and I have agreed, I would say literally after the debut, I would put like the last 3 Europe albums, second, third, and fourth kind of thing. Anyways, next I went with Rick's choice, Uriah Heep. Mine is Uriah Heep, not very heavy, very humble, but there's the inside. And the reason I picked this is because it is so well put together and so heavy for its day, because it's coming out, I believe it's the very middle of 1970. So before this, all we got is Black Sabbath's debut. And then later we get a second Black Sabbath album, and later we get Deep Purple in Rock. But this, I think, is more modern and more like inventive of inventing heavy metal than the first Black Sabbath, less so than the second Black Sabbath, and less so than Deep Purple in rock. But it's so heavy, and the recording is amazing. You listen to Gypsy, the way that thing sounds, it's just so high fidelity for 1970 and on a debut album. And this band, you know, they only had Spice before them from a year before, so it's not like they have tons and tons and tons. I mean, there is some experience going into that band, but and Bird of Prey, which we got on the US version, and Walking in the just so many modern, brand new types of heavy metal, you know, great performances, great production. Okay.
But hey, but Martin, before you go on, I have a question now with that. So Ryan and Rick both showed the Uriah Heep. Is that the US cover, or is it the same record, just different?
No, mine's
covers?
the US cover. Theirs is the UK cover.
Yeah, it is the UK cover, but
Okay, but it's the same record though.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
called Uriah Heep in the States.
There's a track difference.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
one track difference. Bird
Okay.
of Prey is on this one, and it's not on the other ones. It's a big difference.
okay.
probably that's the better cover one, the US version. With the that
They're
cool-
both pretty cool and not great at the same time, I suppose. But this version, because it's got Bird of Prey, which is the best song on it, is the better version musically.
Yes, it is. But
Okay.
the other version was Lucy Blues. It's a rare
Yeah.
thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So now to get back on the responsible tack, I couldn't leave out Queen One because I rate this in my top 3 albums of all time by anybody. So I had to include it. It is obviously amazingly put together, so creative. The production's a little raw, but that's fine. The raw part is made up by like a dozen cool things that they do that are new production things, right? But the songs with Keep Yourself Alive and Liar, even the mellow stuff, Night Comes Down is so cool. Doing All Right is so cool. And then the epics like Great King Rat, My Fairy King. So I've often said this, Physical Graffiti, Sabotage, Interchangeable is my favorite albums of all time. So you can't leave that out. Next, I couldn't leave out Montrose because everybody talks about this as one of the great debuts of all time. It went platinum in 1987. 15 years later, it took to go platinum, but it's just a legend, like the Sex Pistols album is a legend, right? I often call this the first modern American heavy metal album because there's not a single American heavy metal album before this that is not clueless in some way or dated. This is the first time a record came out from the States that can compete with the big British bands. And it's amazing. Obviously, we know the whole Ted Templeman, all the blueprint to Van Halen, blah, blah, blah. So I had to pick this last because, again, we've got a diamond debut here. This is the other album. Everybody, first thing anybody comes to mind as one of the greatest debuts of all time. So again, I didn't want to like go off just to pick things no one would pick because I thought it would be kind of cool to see everybody's true choices and see how often Montrose and Van Halen and things like that would show up. Louis, your Appetite for Destruction obviously was an amazing choice. That is such a correct, cool choice. 37 million copies sold or whatever, right? You can't beat it, right? And I love the variety too in the other genres picked up on there, but there you go. But boring, predictable, maybe except for the Europe, maybe except for the Heap, but even Rick picked the Heap. So
I even consider Europe to almost be metal.
Yeah, I know, but I also did not even know that we were splitting it up.
But
So,
it works for me. It's John
Yeah.
Norm. I'm perfectly fine.
Metal and hard rock.
Yeah, I don't know. I always think Europe a little more hard rock than metal. I don't know. They're really close.
After
Heavy album,
First
man.
two
Really good.
albums are pretty much like almost like power metal albums, sort of, you know. So yeah.
Didn't you guys mention Van Halen last week?
No.
First album? No, good.
I don't think so.
People do say that it's a little on the metallic, but I believe it's hard rock.
Well, we got a lot of people who are like, I can't believe you guys didn't mention Van Halen. That first album is definitely metal.
No,
yeah, I'm the one and On Fire and Atomic Punk, total metal,
Punk.
Metal
super
tinged.
heavy.
Yeah,
In particular, I think, that is like the.
It's on. Yeah, I call it that tightrope that
it's metal tinged. I always think it's metal tinged hard rock.
Yeah.
And the
Like
other
a-
thing is
like
that
that.
everybody was tone hunting after Eddie after that, right?
Yeah.
I mean that tone. Come on, you hear
But
that once, and it's tattooed in your brain.
Oh yeah, but I mean, look, Martin with Queen, Brian May was fully developed right there. He had the Brian May tone on
Yeah.
that first record. You know, that's
Yeah.
that's
That's
brilliant.
But Van Halen, I disagree with you a little bit in that, because I remember getting that at the first time. I wouldn't even say it is a certain thing, because I really do believe it has 3 of the heaviest songs we ever heard by as of 1978, and then it's got other things and this and this and this. So it's a mix of actually having massive metal on it with those songs in the middle, with the joke tune, with a Kinks cover, with a named guitar solo, all that kind of stuff.
The accessibility.
Yep. And I agree with you. And I take that and meld it all together, and to me, it averages out to hard rock.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm with you. Either way, I don't care. I don't need to call it anything. It's fucking Van Halen.
That's right.
And the dynamic that you mentioned, the dynamic of the Queen first album was incredible too for first album.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a flawless record, in my opinion.
Yep.
How big and so how light, and make you really listen for the very soft parts. That's when you have the audience as a visual, because you're not seeing a show, but you actually dig in to listen more. Queen was clever for that.
Yeah, big time.
I thought Martin's idea was probably really good. We should have maybe communicated just to
No.
Not about the picks, but about what the fuck we were doing.
Well, yeah, you have the option of not substituting something too, right? So, but in the honorable mentions, it's all going to come out in the wash anyway.
That's right.
Speaking of that, I'm very interested to see what Sydney's going to do now that I know her number 1 got taken. So let's see what Sydney does now.
I'm going to do the same exact thing that I had planned.
Good.
I was saying earlier before we started recording, I feel like sometimes I just think of things that I know other people won't pick because I know that other people are going to pick my favorites. And this time around, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to actually go with my favorites because they're my favorites. So even though some of them are predictable, it's the debut albums that I really, really love. So
that's good girl.
So the first one, I was kind of thinking of this. I was thinking of maybe something that was a little bit newer that I really, really liked. That would be kind of in the hard rock category. And I've talked about this album on the show before, and I'll probably never get another album from this duo, but it's fine. It's still the debut. I'm going to go with the Dirty Shirley album. This is a really good, like, hard rock, bluesy record. And Dino, who's a singer now, Dino Jalusic, is now in Whitesnake, so we're probably never going to get another album. There was also a bunch of like legal issues that he was dealing with Frontiers, so this is probably like a one and done. But out of like a newer hard rock debut, I absolutely loved this album. Loved it so much that I bought it on vinyl. I just listened to it all the time. Have listened to it a little bit, but now I kind of want to go back and and listen to it over again. But George Lynch is just phenomenal on here. His riffing work on this record is just perfect. I mean, George Lynch is one of my favorite guitar players, so that's really no surprise coming from me. But probably one of his best works in a while because he does so many different projects. But this was like a mix of what we know from George Lynch, but also a little bit of a bluesy side that I feel like sometimes got lost in Dokken. You know, Dokken was more of a metal, so had to go with this one kind of as a newer release.
I'm surprised you didn't go with Dino's band.
Yeah, I mean, I like that album. I like this one a little bit more though.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that Dirty Shirley, when was that released?
That was released in January of 2020. It was through Frontiers. Yeah, it was really recent. And I mean, it's the lead single is called Here Comes the King, and it was just, I heard it and it was
good. I should say it's great actually. It's a great record.
It's a really great album. And I've heard mixed reviews. I mean, some people, are like, I don't know, it's not the best thing George has done. And I mean, I think the fact that also George is still putting out great songs like that, 40 years after he started, it's like, I'll take whatever he does, but I really love that album. Next up, I went with another, obviously one of my favorite debut records. I went with Kiss's first record. Strutter is one of my favorite Kiss songs of all time. A great start off, great opener for this record. You got Firehouse, Deuce, Black Diamond. I mean, it's a pretty solid record from what we kind of think of hits from Kiss. I just think it's a really good introduction. It was one of the albums that I gravitated to the most when I was getting into Kiss. And I was thinking of kind of hard rock. They weren't really metal, they were more obviously kind of hard rock. Maybe you could kind of say it was a precursor to whatever was to come. image wise too. But I thought that this was a good one to include. My third one, I don't have a physical copy of. I'm sorry, Pete. I'm taking this from you. But I'm sticking with my list. I'm so sorry. My third one, I have to go with Boston's debut record. I'm so sorry. But man, that's one of those albums, I know you said it before too, like I can listen to that album over and over again and just never get sick of it. It's just perfect from top to bottom. Peace of Mind is one of my favorite songs of all time. It's just phenomenal. Like the fact that he recorded that album in a basement is just mind-blowing.
Genius.
He's literally a genius. And it's one of those albums that, you know, I kind of think of like the popularity of things that like anybody who's maybe not a hard rock fan would know all of the songs off of that album. If you played them like any song,
every song was a hit. Every song was a hit on that album.
Every song was a hit.
Almost mandatory that you would, right?
Yep.
Right.
And you know, Sidney, to go with that, you know, even more so with the recording, that Tom Scholz stuck to his guns and said, you know, I recorded this here. This is how it is. Yeah, okay, we're gonna go and give you the masters, but we're gonna lie and keep everything. He was, you know, for a guy that just got signed and had nothing, that's a really, really ballsy thing. It's like, I know that this is good. This is it.
It's incredible. And I mean, like just the sound of the band, I mean, like right off the bat, it was just, they got their sound just right away. You know, sometimes like we were talking about earlier, you know, it takes bands a little bit to get to, you know, what their sound would eventually become. And like Boston got their sound right away. And that was Boston. And you can listen to that album and you could maybe not know a song and then you'd be like, but that's Boston. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, the sound is so identifiable. So, and
that sound of that record is you know, there's not a lot of records like that the first time you heard More Than a Feeling, for most of us, was the first song. It grabs you by the throat and you're like, wow, what's this? Nothing sounded like that album.
Yeah, it was so perfect and everything sonically was just so well thought out. Everybody was hooked.
And here in 2021, nothing sounds like it.
No.
But the thing is, Schultz was an engineer also, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing is people undervalue that a lot. If you actually understand the waveforms,
right,
you can do some cool shit. You don't need to have a lot of equipment. You just need to understand the waveforms. So
he was a genius.
And but then he used to. They had the rock bands, right? After that, the guitars. Yeah. That guy knew what he was doing. So that's why that record sounds so good.
Exactly.
That he knew what he was doing, man. He was incredible. And I mean, to this day, it's one of the greatest debut albums that anybody's ever released. So I'm sorry I had to steal your thunder, Pete, but that was just
that's all right.
Had to happen. I'm sorry.
He set the bar so high that he could never compete with that effort. That's a hard thing to live by. I think.
Oh man.
Yeah. When you're an artist that want to grow and your best work is already done to some people's eyes, you know, I mean, like Russ had a whole decade to bring out Moving Pushers, you know, or even Grand Illusion. You got a few albums under your belt. Just your first one, and then try to live to that. That much why it took the third stage a few years to get through. Not to mention some bad luck, but along the way.
Yeah. My number 2 is no surprise. I have to go with the first Van Halen, but I wanted to share the original EP of this that was given to radio stations for promotion. And the interesting thing about it is I looked this up and I got this for a birthday gift a couple of years ago. And it actually goes for like over $1,000 on eBay. It's actually incredible. But it has it only has a couple songs. And the interesting thing about this and why I wanted to show it is that it's a red vinyl, and it was in '78. It has the Looney Tunes on the back, the Merry Melodies label, it's really cool. But it's just the EP, so it wasn't the full record. But I believe, what does it have? Running with the Devil, Eruption, Ice Cream Man, and then the other sides, You Really Got Me, and Jamie's Crying. And then it has the original, you know, Van Halen logo back before. So I had to share that. But I mean, when I think of the greatest probably debut records of all time, this is right up there with what my number 1 is going to be. It just doesn't get any better than this. And the fact that, you know, Van Halen continued to release music that was just as good, you know, years and years later is just mind blowing. I mean, again, we talk about every single song on this album is known and is just a hit. Like in this, rock world, it's just insane. I mean, we all know how good that album is, but it's just.
And for everyone wondering right now, if I have it, if I own that or not, I do not.
Wow. Yeah, I got it. It was a gift.
What's your address?
It was a gift from my parents. They were in New York City, and there was this like vinyl, this guy was just selling it on this, like, he had like a little vinyl shop on the streets in like the Village or whatever, and they came
on the street. Are you serious?
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a score. Holy
They got it for like $25.
Fuck you. Holy shit.
I like those kind of stories. Feel good shit.
On the fucking street.
Yeah,
$1,000 record.
You see the note on it. It just says, red vinyl promo from first album, 1978.
That's
Might be
fucking
worth
brilliant, man.
the
Good for you, Sid.
They probably had no idea what they had. I
Yep.
mean,
No.
That's some Antiques Roadshow shit. I found this vase and like, it's actually worth $6 million. It's from like, a couple.
I looked it up for curiosity because I was thinking about it one day and I was like, it's really crazy that it's a colored vinyl. Like, that's like such a, I don't know, like usually you didn't like see that, especially in like promo.
Well, it was a promo in 1978, so they probably sent red vinyl and cocaine. So
I mean, I looked it up, and when I looked up, because I wanted to know why it was colored, and I looked it up, and it goes for like, I saw the thing on eBay, and it was like $1,000, and I was like, holy shit! I had no idea it was that expensive, but anyway, it's.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Sorry, Butch. I'll let you look at it the next time. When I finally come, I'll bring it. You can hold it, whatever.
A picture of it.
And then my number one is no surprise. I have to go with Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. I saw Guns N' Roses recently at the end of July, and I've kind of been on a really severe Guns N' Roses kick right now. There was a time where I probably could have not listened to this album for a bit, but now it's like all I want to listen to. There's certain songs. Yeah, I mean, there are certain songs in here, like, I could probably not listen to Mr. Brownstone for a while, and Paradise City maybe, but like, there are songs that are here that are overplayed, like Welcome to the Jungle, I could listen to on repeat, and I would just never get sick of it.
Really?
Look at your face, people. I don't know. It's just.
Wow, really?
I never need to hear Welcome to the Jungle.
No, exactly.
And everybody's different, but like I love that song. I love this album.
I can tell you what,
every single song from.
I'll never get sick of Night Train. I can listen to that forever.
See, but I kind of like I could go a little bit without listening to Night Train. I love Night Train, but I mean, but then you have great songs in this that are a little underrated. Like Think About You is probably my favorite song on this record, and it's like, that song never gets played. They never play it live. I don't know. It's just, this was a band that was, when they released this, it was really just a hungry band, and they were doing something that made us an impact and changed the scene, and love it or hate it. I mean, you can't really deny what this did for the scene at that time and how it kind of changed things. So I think it's just phenomenal. I mean, probably, and it is right now, as I'm saying it, like my favorite probably debut record ever. So that was my number one.
Can I ask a question? Who
was
in the band?
Say that again?
Who was in the band when you saw them?
Well, I mean, Steven Adler
guys and
is not in the band, but I mean, Axel / Steven Adler's not in the band, and Izzy Stradlin doesn't want to be in the band. So I think they invited him back.
Good for him.
Decided not to.
Drumming, do you know?
Richard Fortis is playing guitar instead. I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure who's the drummer. I don't think I'm sure he's somebody, obviously.
He's playing with a bunch of guys too. He's done a bunch of things, and I can't think of his name. Martin probably knows his name.
Yeah, I can picture him. I saw some videos.
He's a light-skinned black guy, so I can say that. You guys can't say that, but I can say that.
I'm blanking, but I mean, Steven Adler. I'm not 100% sure what the situation was, but I know that they asked Izzy, and he was just kind of like, I think he just went through a lot during that time period, and it kind of brings back a little too much of that,
Yeah.
Why is Matt Sorum not there? I mean, is it because he's part of Billy's band? Billy Gibbons?
I don't know.
Because Billy's out with ZZ Top, and that's Frank Beard.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
I don't even
why
remember
not.
who was drumming when
I
I
think
saw
that
them
was-
about 10 years ago. And
Was kicked out, and then when he had Brain and Buckethead and those guys.
How long has Buckethead been out of the band? It's been a couple of years, right?
That was
It's been
because
like
I mean
10
Chinese
years.
Democracy, that era was DJ Ashba, who's did the 6 a.m. thing with Nikki Sixx, and then
Bumblefoot.
yeah, Bumblefoot. But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure.
I think what it was that when the real Guns N' Roses, Slash and Duff and whatever, and then the Axl Guns N' Roses got together, I think their thing was that Axl didn't want to fire the core of his band, which was the drummer, which we can't remember his name, and sucks I can't remember his name. And I know Fortis was already there, so they kind of just brought Slash and Duff and kind of melded that. But yeah, I'm the same way. I was like, why wouldn't you get Matt Sorum then?
It's interesting though when you see them live, because it's almost like the condition to like I have to play this song and you get to play this song, because I mean they'll do Democracy and then they'll do Velvet Revolver, and then like it's kind of like they have to like.
You're playing that, I'm playing this.
Yeah, like if you're playing better, I'm playing,
contract,
Slither. Like that's how it's gonna. I mean, they do a good job. I mean, they seem to be getting along. It's been 4 years now. There doesn't seem to be any weird tension, at least. Right, I'm sure they figured out a way, whether it's separate buses or whatever, to get along. But I mean, it was a fun show.
When that check gets deposited into your account and you see those numbers, you're like, I'm fine.
This is great.
Exactly. Let's play Slither. Let's go. Whatever you Chinese Democracy, whatever you want, Axl.
Yeah, I mean, I think no matter what people say, I mean, I'll stop in a second, but I mean, I think Axl's really trying. I know that he did, but I think he's putting an effort. He's gotten into shape. Has a lot of high energy. Obviously, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that a lot of these guys don't sound like they did when they recorded these albums. But
how does he sound? Like how I hate to say it, but how awful David Lee Roth has sounded in the recent years. Is he sound, or does he sound better than that?
The thing about Axl, I think, is it really depends on the song. I know, like, he struggles a little bit. I think, like in certain parts of Welcome to the Jungle, like there's stuff that he's definitely struggles with. I think he's definitely better, obviously, with like the lower range. It's not terrible. It's not the best. The thing is, though, I got back from the show and I was like, oh my God, he sounded amazing. Like I was in the middle of the show and I was like, this is effing awesome. And then I got home and I watched the video and I was like, oh.
Maybe not quite that awesome, right?
Did they do Night Train?
Yeah, they did Night Train. I mean,
how did he sound on that?
In the moment he sounded great.
But the video, not so much.
I didn't watch the video, that one. But
I like how she's trying to save herself. In the moment, he sounded great.
But that's the thing, though, is that people are like,
that's right.
People get on these YouTube videos and they're so critical, and it's like when you're in the moment at a show,
right?
That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
Show, it sounds, you're having a good time, like you're singing along. You're not even really half the time like, holy shit, is he hitting that note right? I thought it was a fun show. I thought it was a good
all that
time.
matters.
Recordings are not reliable. How many Zeppelin bootlegs sounds like crap, but you know that it sounded better when you're there? Or even some BBC recordings, Deep Purple kicking ass because they're not capturing it correctly.
Yeah,
but
I've been to a lot of shows too where you're just enjoying yourself, and maybe I think the one and Butch was at the same show. I remember going to see Michael Schenker a couple of years ago, and the Gary Barden was up there singing, and I was like, oh, ouch, that's really bad. And I looked up at Butch and he's like, and it's like, and that's like the one time I can remember where I really noticed it. And I was like, wow, that's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
But usually, like he says, you're getting into the show and you're like,
that's all that matters. Having a good time.
And that was it with Axl, is that like I thought that he sounded, in the moment I was like, wow, he is like on fire. Like I was like in the moment, like he sounds, I got done with the show and like somebody asked me how it was, like on Twitter or something. I was like, he sounded effing amazing. And then I got home and it wasn't like bad, but it definitely was like, he just sounds like Axl Rose sounds now.
You were enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
That's
I'm not anything on Axl. Like I don't want this to sound like an Axl bash. It's doing great.
I'm curious because I just don't know who is Guns N' Roses nowadays or what the deal is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's enough probably Guns N' Roses talk to keep me satisfied for a very long time. But
Eyeballs are burning up.
It's funny. I just by accident saw Michael Schenker at Pink Pop on YouTube earlier today. And Gary Barden was struggling there even. Like, I couldn't believe it. It's like, how do you hire a guy that obviously can't sing, like on your very first tour or second tour or whatever? Like, I looked at that and go, wow, man, it looked painful just getting the notes out of him all the way back in whatever that was, 81, 82. So,
yeah. And, you know, Gary's a great front man and he's a cool dude, but yeah, he's just not, you know, on the albums, he sounds pretty good, but yeah.
I mean,
I always love how Pete always brings up Gary Barden.
Well, you know, it's not all, you know, I can't tell you how many, you know, I
love him too.
Come back from a concert and be like, wow, that singer was just terrible tonight.
Yeah, he had an off night.
We've all heard some of our heroes. You know, I've seen Coverdale a couple times where he didn't sound that great. I've seen Halen a couple times where he didn't sound that great. I love these guys, right? But, you know, I know they're getting up there in age, but, you know, Gary's a little bit younger and Gary doesn't have the mileage on the tours like these guys do. And you see Gary Barden up there and I'm like, I mean, that show I'm talking about, I mean, he was awful every song. And I'm like, how do you bring this guy out with you? I mean, yeah, he's a great frontman.
You know,
got the cowboy hat up there and everything, but just like he just sounded awful.
You know, the thing about it though, and this is like really, I think a big difference is, you know, if you're a guitarist, you're a keyboard player, drummer, well, drummer's kind of like in between. It's a very physical instrument. And the singer, you really have to sleep. You have to not smoke.
Yeah.
You have to warm up. You have to take care of yourself. And I mean, Rick can tell you, right?
Yeah, tell that to Ronnie James Dio, who walked on stage and didn't do shit.
Yeah, but, you know,
he's the rare case.
I know.
You know, people who are not fucking mutants, they have to take care of themselves because otherwise, you know, Chris Cornell is a perfect example. He was belting them out, and then it's like, oh shit, it's gone. You know.
Yeah, that shit also wears, you know, once you we're looking at people like Coverdale, right? I mean, he's been singing since fucking like 1970, whatever, like
74.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like from literally he hasn't had a year off. He hasn't, and that's obviously, I mean, he's chosen to do that. But I mean, we're looking at him now, and people are like just very judgmental, and I'm like, dude, like he's been singing for like 50 years.
Well, that's
like,
what we do. We're armchair critics. I mean, you say that, and then I think, and I preface this by saying I know he's a fucking freak. I understand this, but you say Coverdale, and then you look next to him, who was singing with him in '74, Glenn Hughes, who was a drug addict, was bigger than Orson Welles, and now weighs 110 pounds. He up, down, drugs, all this stuff, and the guy sings like he did in 1970 with Trapeze. And I understand that that's not normal, but you know, it's like, holy shit.
Some of these people might be aliens, I think, because that is not normal.
Gotta be, right?
Use yourself.
God bless them, though.
I mean, I can't even get up on stage and play without warming up.
Absolutely.
You kill me, you know.
Yep.
I have to warm up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I love you, Axl Rose. That was no hate. Just never see this.
We want to talk about that new Guns N' Roses song.
I haven't heard it.
I'm gonna.
Oh,
Let's not talk about that shit.
No, I definitely got to listen to it after this.
There you go.
I'll have message me after you listen to it, Butch.
Okay. I'm next, right?
You are.
Well, Montrose was already killed several times. I'm just gonna do this just for Sydney.
Oh, what a great choice. I totally forgot about that one.
That doesn't count. I'm just doing it for Sydney.
Okay, all right. I was gonna, but real quick, like Tesla. I mean, I was having a hard time of like putting them in like the 80s metal category or like the hard rock.
They're totally hard rock.
Yeah, hard rock.
Totally hard rock.
I guess I'm just fucking wrong. It's okay.
But I am absolutely cheating. I'm gonna cheat now because I'll feel bad if I don't. So I'm cheating on my number 5. But these are 2 that no one here would ever pick. I don't know, Martin. Well, Rick, I know you know one of these bands because I
already know. I can guess right now.
Ballistic. But I'm going to start with this band from Georgia, Injected. I love these guys. Oh my goodness, Lord. Matter of fact, I mean, really quick story. A friend of mine, a girlfriend of mine who I love to death was killed. We're talking like 2000 or 2001. I forget the actual year now, but at her funeral and everything, I couldn't go there. I couldn't. And I went to New York City and I went and saw these guys at CBGB's because I know that's what she wanted. She would have wanted me to do. It's like, you go see Injected. Don't come to this thing. And I went and saw Injected at CBGB's instead. They've put out a couple of records. I love this band. They are a great hard rock band. I don't know if any of you guys, other than Martin, I'm sure Martin remembers the band a little bit at least.
No, I don't.
No, really?
Have to check it out. Yeah.
They were on Island Records.
Okay, what year is that?
2002. So I'm wrong. 2002. I was thinking 2000 to 2001. So 2002. I love these guys. These guys were just a great hard rock band out of Georgia.
Know what your next pick is?
It's just, yes, you do. And the other one, so that's my number 5 and tied for 5 is Ian Thornley and Big Wreck. I know me and Pete have talked about Big Wreck, and I know Pete's grinning there. You don't got to say a goddamn thing. I love this fucking band. I love Ian Thornley. Ian Thornley is one of the greatest guitar players on this planet that nobody knows about. They're from Canada, from the Toronto area. I love this album to death. Me and Rick met through Facebook and everything a few months ago. And I said, I got some Canadian. I love Canada. I got some Canadian bands for you. And I told him about Big Wreck. He's like, who? And he went and listened to it. And Rick, now you own everything.
Yes, I do. Great guitar playing and got a kind of a Japan vibe in the drumming.
Yeah.
I love drums. And it just reminded me of a recipe of all kinds of great classic rock mismatched into this band. And of
Absolutely.
course, he got a great voice, very unique.
He's got and I hate when people use this guy as an example. Not that he's not a tremendous singer, but I get why people say it, although I don't think he sounds anything like him, honestly. But the people that I've turned him on to always say that they think of Chris Cornell. He has Chris Cornell isms, but I don't really think he sounds exactly like him. But if anyone goes and check him out, you'd be like, oh yeah, he sounds like Chris Cornell. But this is from '97, the debut, and there's not a lot of guitar playing. I mean, there's a lot of slide playing, but there's no shreddy stuff. And then later on in their career, he kind of broke up the band after the second record and had a solo band called Thornley. And then came back later on and did Big Wreck later on. And I'll be the first one to admit, when they got back together, they added another guitar player. So there was 3 guitar players. And there was so much shred guitar stuff. I thought for sure it was the other guy that they brought in, that I had to go and start looking up stuff. And it was like, oh, wow, this is Ian doing all this stuff. So when you listen to those first 2 original Big Wreck records, there's not shredding. Everything after that, because, in the 90s, it was like, you don't play solos.
Yeah.
Later on, holy shit.
Yeah, he wrote more for the song and the melody than the musical part, and that came afterwards.
But man, the later Big Wreck stuff, guitar players, oh my God. Just please check that stuff out. So I have to cheat, and those are my tied for 5. So I'll go here. So number 4.
Yes.
Badlands.
How the fuck did I forget that?
I don't know.
You
know what, Sydney? I thought for sure, especially knowing that you were going ahead of me, I'm like, she's gonna say this. I'm gonna have to pick something different. But
Son of a bitch.
Jakey Lee crushes on this. Ray Gillen. Oh goddamn. This is just a great 90s. This is 90, right? No, this is 89. This is the same year as Blue Murder. So 89.
Could have been a mega album.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous on that album.
Right?
I think it came a little bit too late.
Yep.
Yeah, it came. Let's select the Blue Murder record. And I didn't put that in here because I considered that more on the metal side. So I didn't put the Blue Murder thing in here. But yeah, they were kind of on the end of the 80s going into the 90s where things were changing, and they, both phenomenal.
Such a great record.
So number 3, Pete is starting to see the light with this guy singing. And I'm very happy to hear that, because we would talk over the years. I don't get his voice. Everyone loves his voice. I don't really like him.
Here you go.
King Jack's Out of the Silent Planet.
That was it.
Oh, Doug Pinnick, Ty Tabor, Jerry Gaskill. My Lord, I saw them on the promotional tour at the Cat Club in New York City. Oh, just that record. This is just utter brilliance. If any of you guys are watching this and you don't own this, and or even more so, if you've never heard it,
Go hear it. Oh yeah. Well,
unbelievable.
Doug is such a nice guy.
All three of them. Yeah.
I only met Doug, and I didn't realize I was talking to him. I was at a Dio show, and
Really
opened, and then Dio was on stage, and I'm drinking a beer, and the guy next to me is telling me, "Isn't he fucking great?" And yeah, he's fucking awesome. And I realize this big lanky guy, and I turn around to fucking cheers, and it's Doug.
And then, so going with that, back to someone that's, like the Glenn Hughes thing, Doug Pinnick is almost 70 fucking years old.
Oh yeah.
And looks fabulous. And still, I mean, I know that they tuned down a bit more than they did because they tuned down to start with. So they tuned down. I know Doug smokes a lot of pot and whatever, but Doug still sounds great on the KXM records. And he just put out a record with a band called Grinder Blues, and he sounds great on that. I mean,
he's in great shape though.
Yes, he is.
So, respect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they got another album in the can.
Yeah. So number 2 is a band that I've talked about since I was 9 or 10 years old, trying to get all my friends into them, of which it didn't work on most of them. But this band will always means so much to me. And I've still, all the shows I've seen in my lifetime, I still will say that this is the greatest live show I've ever seen in my life. March 12th, 1978, I saw this band.
There you go. I knew you wouldn't let me down, Butch.
Yes, sir. The greatest live show I've ever seen in my entire life. And unfortunately, there is very, very, very little documentation on YouTube and videos to see it. But I'm telling you, as a 10-year-old kid, to see that show, or 10, 10, because I wasn't, my birthday's in May, so I was 10. To see the spectacle of what they did on a live show, no one out there can, anyone, unless you've seen Angel, you can't understand the magnitude of what they did on a band that was never never big. Their production in 78 is off the charts. If anybody out there is an Angel fan, about the boxes and them coming out of the boxes in the mirror and oh my God, it was just, I'll never forget it to this day still. I mean, I've seen Rammstein, and honestly, probably truthfully, Rammstein's probably the greatest show ever because they had modern production, but you take away that, Angel in 78, forget it.
And
even
they
over
have
Kiss.
the songs, and they have the songs.
And they have the songs.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, I reconnected with a friend recently, and she's a singer. And I remember I said, have you ever heard Angel before? And she's like, no. And I was at a bar with her, and I pulled up on my phone and I played her the song Mariner on this. I'm like, just listen to this. It's keyboard, it's piano, it's piano and Frank Domino singing for like the more than half of the song. Complete brilliance.
I've never heard that record.
Oh,
really? Yeah.
No,
I kind of envy you. It's nice to listen to a gem.
I decided it was probably crap because Frank Zappa made fun of it.
He made fun of Punky. Yeah, fuck
Right.
Frank Zappa.
So-
Don't make
so-
fucking don't pick on
Punky.
Punky. Punky Meadows and Ace Frehley were the 2 reasons I ever picked up a guitar. Those 2 guys, 100%. That's
But
it.
I worship in the Church of Frank. So for
Understood.
me, I heard he sniffed the reeking buns of Angel and acted like it was cocaine, and I said, I'm fucking done. I don't need to hear this band.
But have you ever heard the song The Tower?
No.
Really?
You would like that, Lewis. Yeah, I would listen to that first.
I'm gonna get that now.
I'm telling you. And Jesus, I mean, no, Lizzie is not my number 1 pick. That was a different Lizzie. That was Irish folk Lizzie. I like those records. I own them. I have them all on album. I have them all on CD. I don't listen to them really. Unless it comes up on shuffle, that's the shit. I mean, for me, I've been saying forever, this is the revolution of 1978.
Yep.
That guy right there completely changed the landscape of everything. To this day, between guitar tone and people starting to paint their guitars and do graphics on the guitar to the tapping. I mean, there's endless things that this album ignited. It's just it's brilliant, and Ted Templeman's production is perfect.
You know, Butch, the other funny thing about that album is it's the only album of theirs without the Brown sound, and it's the most professionally recorded and performed album of theirs. I've always said that starting with 2, they turned into the Who. You know, they just turned into this ragged band with a lot of personality and this new crazy Brown sound, which is a combo of Eddie and Alex. But on that first album, they were just like, it was all business. It's their most corporate album, gorgeously recorded, you know, performed meticulously. But after that, they just became Van Halen.
Yeah. Yep. They were go for the throat on that first record. And, you know, as very well documented with Pete and these shows, Van Halen 2 is my favorite album of all time. But but that debut is just is spotless.
To come out with that, like to have that be the first thing that the world sees from you is just like
pretty crazy, right?
It's like how do you get over that bar? Like
yeah,
I know.
But it's the last time that they're ever going to care and try that hard on a record ever again.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the last time they're that hungry for it because they became
Martin, you're absolutely right. It was they were hungry. They were trying to make. It took them all those years to get signed. They were angry. They were pissed off. They made that record. And I always say, honestly, to me, Van Halen 2, I always call Van Halen 2 the party album. That's like you said. They were meaning, and then the second record, let's
spending that check, right, and just having a good time.
Exactly, having a good time.
Enjoying it.
Did you see that? There's, I don't know if it's taken down now, but there was a really like great video on YouTube of this guy who's like remastering all these like shows from the like.
Oh yeah, from Fresno.
Yeah.
Fresno Media. Yeah.
Oh. It was like just the clarity on that video is just incredible. Like it's just
Cindy, you don't even understand. I sat here when I found that guy a couple of years ago, and I sat here with tears of joy by myself, sitting here just looking at this. Is like I never thought I would ever see any of this stuff.
I remember those barrages of links on Facebook every like 3 times a day from Butch. I'm like, oh, here comes another one. Yeah.
Oh my God. 78, 79 is like, look at them. It's like, oh my God.
It's like the fact that like, you know, yeah, I mean, I had never, before I saw that, I hadn't really seen anything from like that era of like that clear and like, you know, it's all like fuzzy and shit, you know, like, but that was like a really clear video. Like audio was great, video was great. I don't know if it's still up. I have to go look, but
I think it still is. I think it is. Fresno Media was the guy's name.
I saw that maybe a year or 2 ago. Yeah, I remember it still being up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe
Brilliant.
a year ago.
Cool. All right, Ryan. I'm very curious to see what you got.
Yes, sir.
Nobody picked anything I picked here. I know I had a fun time with this because I'm definitely more of
I know one. I'm expecting one in particular.
I don't think I'm gonna have that one. Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. I'm definitely more of a metal guy. I know Shock than a rock guy. So this was more interesting for me because I was pulling out albums, I was putting them away.
I know you're gonna. Listen. I already know you're gonna give me the one that I'm expecting. You don't think but I know it. I know you're gonna give it to me.
I don't think I am. I'll put that as an honorable mention. I think
okay.
I don't think I am.
So I'm gonna go chronologically here. So I ended up just by pure chance. I'm looking at these albums now. I'm like, you know what? All of these bands are bands that kind of put out a great first album for me, and then just kind of fucked off in different capacities. Some of them might have kept going and not have done anything that ever matched the first album. They faded into obscurity. Some of them broke up or just didn't do anything worthwhile. So I'm gonna go chronologically. So first is January 1968, and I like this album a lot. It doesn't ever get mentioned on the show very often, but that is the first Blue Cheer album, Vincebus Eruptum. It sounds like this album sounds like total shit. I don't know if you ever heard it. It is, I don't know how else to describe it, and I say that in a very loving way. Sometimes it gets
sounding.
Around as the first metal album. I don't think so. I think it's a psychedelic late 60s album. The production is just absolute wall of fucking chaos. Which
Ryan,
is endearing to me.
no one gives it the way you give it, brother.
The band, it kind of reminds me of, because they were a power trio. They were all fucked up. They didn't really know what they were doing. The musically it's different, but the spirit of it kind of reminds me of Venom, like the early Venom stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just a total cacophony, but it's a bunch of covers. Obviously, their cover of Summertime Blues by Eddie Cochran was kind of big hit on the radio back then. But it's got a bunch of other. It's got a BB King cover, Rock Me Baby. They put out. So I had to look this up. There was 30 people in this band over the course of the decades before they broke up, and they put out 10 albums. 10 albums. I've only heard like 3 or 4 of them. I heard the last one, which was pretty good, and they had an 80s album called The Beast Is Back. And the second album was named. I am just totally eating shit on now. I cannot remember. But I know everything I've heard, it's been okay, but this one to me has always been the standout because it's just this really ridiculous late 60s album. You had Cream, you had Hendrix, who are obviously very musically competent, talented, innovative. They knew what they were doing. I think these just guys did a lot of LSD, hung out with Hell's Angels, just went in the studio, just plugged everything in, every amp they plugged into, just total chaos. I love it. It's a great album. I still listen to it all the time. It's a lot of fun.
Well, you can sell it like nobody else.
I know. It's hard to describe because it literally sounds like shit. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it. It's
the second one is Inside Outside or Outside Inside, and it's also 1968, and it actually does even a little more towards the contribution of inventing heavy metal. There's some pretty modern sounding things for a second 1968 album out of that second one.
Yeah, I couldn't get it in. That is a pretty good album. It's definitely a little mellower. The production's not as like.
And then with their third album, and I think the next like 3 after that,
really mellow,
different sounding band.
Really,
like a mellow Steppenwolf, or some of them sound like
there's a self-titled, there's a New and Improved, I think, and one other one that came out before the long gap of them going away.
The formula.
They're good for what they are, but they don't sound like the early stuff.
I never, I listened to a lot of that stuff on YouTube to check it out, and I'm like, this isn't for me. But the final album they did in 2007, I think it's called What Doesn't Kill You. That's actually pretty good. That's just like a good, heavy, bluesy, hard rock album. Nothing fancy. And then Dickie Peterson passed away, and then that was the end of the band after that.
And Paul Whaley, the drummer's gone too now.
He passed away too. That's my first choice. So moving chronologically, I picked this one off the shelf now. I'm going to put an exception in here. It's going to have to go up to the rules committee. This is actually their second album, but their first album was all cover songs. So this is their first album of original material. So that's the only one I give a crap about. Going to Japan. This is April 71, and it's the Flower Traveling Band.
Wow.
The album is called Satori.
What the fuck is that?
So I'll tell you what. The name Flower Traveling Band probably makes you think of psychedelic, hippie stuff, blah, blah. Go on YouTube and listen. It's a 5-part song. It's Satori, the name of the album, and every song is Satori Part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The first song on it, Satori Part 1, in 1971, I'm going to say with the exception of Black Sabbath, is the heaviest fucking thing to come out that year. It is this dirgy, nasty, heavy, slow, rotten, just evil tone. It is great. It is you know what? The first album was all covers of like different Western bands. This doesn't really sound like any like Western hard rock bands at the time. They had a totally unique sound. I'm not a musician, so I'm really not big into music theory, but I know a couple of guys in the band were really into they were rotten stuff, but they were into Indian music, so a lot of Indian music influences kind of seeped into it here. The rest of the album isn't as heavy, but I'm gonna just go on YouTube and check out that first song, Satori Part 1. It is heavy as shit for that year. It's ridiculous.
What's the name of the band again?
The band, it's called the Flower Traveling Band.
Flower Traveling Band.
Okay.
So this is a fucking record if I can find it.
Well, this is a 2 CD. It comes with their third album called Made in Japan, which came out earlier than the Deep Purple album by a couple months. It's a studio album, not a live album. It's good. It's pretty good. But Satori's the one I'm talking about. They're their second album, but it's their first.
Wait a minute. So you bought a CD that has 2 records on it, but it actually has 3?
No. That doesn't have the first one. It's just the second and the third album.
Okay. I get what you're saying. Okay.
So it's I'll put it back here. Yeah, it's Satori. You can see it's part 1 through 5, and then it's got Made in Japan, which is a good album. But Satori's the one I'm talking about.
Satori is pretty wild. Yeah, that's out there.
It doesn't really sound like anybody else. And that first song, I'm telling you, other than like for that year, so you had I don't even know if Master Reality was out by then. So you had Paranoid by Black Sabbath. Other than some songs on Paranoid, I don't think there was anything on the planet as heavy as that for that year. Wow. And the name would never give it away. It's like Flower. It doesn't sound. Yeah. So third one is going to 72. This is a band I'm a little surprised never gets mentioned too much on the show. It's pretty big. Some of the guys were in a lot of bigger bands. Maybe it gets mentioned on the Prague show more often because it kind of fits in that dimension there. But that is the first Captain Beyond album, which fucking Rod Evans, who I like his work in this band. Not the biggest fan of Mark 1 Deep Purple. I like the Mark 2 stuff a lot more. You had a bunch of guys from Iron Butterfly, and you had Bobby Cadwell from Armageddon and the Johnny Winter band. This album is great. It's just it's got jazzy elements, psych rock. It's very heavy. The whole thing is written it's 13 songs, but it's just all the songs flow into each other. There's no breaks between songs, so it just unless you were like playing the CD and like looking at the tracks, you wouldn't really know when one song ends and another begins. It just flows seamlessly. And these guys fucking jam on this album. Some of the songs, there's so many points where they just like the vocals kind of drop back a little bit and they just fucking, it's just, I assume everybody here has heard it. It was a pretty big album, obviously between Deep Purple, Iron Butterfly, Johnny Winter, very well-known artists. But yeah, this first Captain Beyond. And then after this, I don't know, they did a couple more things, but it was never anything I really cared about. I know there's a lot of problems. Evans had a lot of Deep Purple legal bullshit, and he kind of vanished off the face of the earth. But this one is great. I love this a lot.
Great album.
I forgot all about that one. Yeah, that's a
very adventurous record.
The next one is this is a weird one. When we did a show a couple weeks ago, I mentioned a British band called Pagan Altar who recorded some stuff back in the late 70s, early 80s, and it didn't get a formal release until the 2000s. So they ended up being this lost, obscure new wave band. So there's a band from Arizona, and they kind of fell into the same boat. They recorded this album in 1983, only pressed a few copies, which go for tons of money now on Discogs and eBay. They vanished for decades. They finally came back. Some labels reissued it, and they started playing shows, put out some more albums. And they're a pretty weird band, and that is Ashbury, and the album is Endless Skies. And this is a weird album because the artwork is like total heavy metal. It's got that classic, like the wizards looking over the valley. A lot of the lyrics are very heavy metal themed, but the music, I don't know. It's almost more like it could have been from a decade earlier. It's like a lot of Dire Straits, a lot of Eagles, a lot of Wishbone Ash.
Yeah, Almonds, yeah.
That there's Allman Brothers got this very like bluesy, like relaxed, like Southern rock vibe, but they're singing about like wizards and warriors and all this cool shit. When this was recorded, it was two brothers, Rob Davis and Randy Davis, and they just had a drummer, and the two guys did all the vocals, all bass guitar, so they, keyboards, everything else. Some of the guitar solos on this, some of the leads these guys do, oh my god, it's a real laid back, like bluesy, soulful, souly, nothing like no shred, nothing like that. I was actually lucky to see them a couple of years ago. They played a festival in New York with Sirith Ungol, Nasty Savage, and Bitch. It was called Defenders of the Old in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And so these guys, now this was decades after this album came out. I was just standing there like my jaw on the floor the whole time. They played pretty much everything from this album. They do have a newer album from like 3 or 4 years ago that's really good. But this one, I heard this one first time. A friend of mine was like, "You ever hear this band?" At this point, it's easy to get. This is a 2007 reissue. He's like, "You ever hear this band from Arizona?" I'm like, "Nah, I never heard of them." So he sends me a couple links and I'm listening. I'm like, how are these guys not fucking huge? This is amazing. This is such a good album. But they put this album out. They vanished for, I don't know, close to 30 years, maybe more. And then they started doing stuff again. And I don't even know if they're still active anymore. So it was like a little burst of inspiration. Now they're gone again. But yeah, this Endless Skies, Ashbury, technically from 1983, but I think only a couple people, maybe friends of the band, heard it back then. So it's kind of also a newer album in a way, because that seems when most of their fan bases popped up. I don't know a single person that's like, "Oh yeah, I heard that back then." They've got so limited distribution. So my last one, I wanted to pick one newer band. So sometimes Pete and myself will send bands back and forth because I know Pete's a giant Uriah Heep fan too. I'm a huge Uriah Heep fan. He's like, check this band out. They kind of have that, that crunchy Hammond organ, that Uriah Heep sound, that kind of prog heavy metal. So I was thinking about that, and I picked my favorite band of that style of newer bands. Anybody on the show has heard of them? Raise your hand. It's from the musical hotbed of Hobart, Tasmania, way down in the southern hemisphere. The band is called Tarot. There's probably a lot of bands with that name, and the album is called Reflections. It's got this really cool lithograph style artwork, and this has this. It's very Uriah Heep sounding. One of the coolest things they do is they have all the vocals on the album, where it's tandem male female vocals the whole time. It's like this weird chanting vocal, like not like Gregorian chant. You almost have to listen to. I don't know. I'm not really good at describing it, but the vocals have this weird chant effect. The guitar, the leads are great, like very, very bluesy, great leads. Definitely like Uriah Heep, early Rainbow, early Deep Purple, like that kind of stuff. I'd say so. It was pretty obscure. It's a little hard to find now, unfortunately. I was searching before because I wanted this on vinyl. Even the CD versions now are kind of rare. It came out in 2016. And if you want to hear a good song from it, check out the song Mountain Throne. I think it's my favorite track. So it is the first Tarot album from Hobart, Tasmania. If there's anybody from freaking Tasmania watching, shoot a comment out. That's a pretty remote location. But yeah, that's my 5. I love this album too. I'm very picky with newer rock bands. Some like come through the cracks for me, but a lot of them I'm like, I just listen to like Immolation or like Slayer. But these guys I like a lot. This is really, really good album. So those are my 5.
I can vouch for that one. It's definitely very good.
I think I said it to you at one point. I'm like, you got it.
Yeah, you did. And I picked up the one they released after that as well, which is also pretty good.
All the compilation of all the early, that's good too.
Yeah.
I want to do Nick's picks too.
Oh yeah,
Nick's.
So let me pop the link.
Nick gave me now the first one he wanted to do, which I thought I owned and I do not, which is my bad because I like it. Is the first Pink Floyd, Piper at the Gates of Dawn with Sid Barrett. Cool album, a little different than their 70s stuff, obviously more psychedelic when Sid was in the band. I could have sworn I owned a copy of it, but I fucked up, so I do not. So I have to go rectify that now. The second one he wanted to do, which I also didn't think of until he mentioned it. It's not my favorite album from them, but I like the band a lot. I'm more into their weirder later stuff. Where their first album was kind of, I'm not going to say plain Jane because they were never a normal band, but it's the first Hawkwind album from 1970. This ridiculous artwork. Good album. Once they went a little further into like Space Ritual, Warriors at the Edge of Time, or War at the Edge of Time, that's more like my favorite era of Hawkwind. All the Mountain Grill. But no, this is a great album too. This is a good album. They never really were bad. They have about 300 albums I've never heard because they put out an album. I think they put out an album every year since 1970, conservatively. The next one, and this is one for Butch. So one of Nick's favorite Norwegian black metal bands, Borknagar. One of the guys, his name is Lars Nedland, put out an album called The White Void. I've never heard it. He sent it to me in a text, so I told him I'd mention it. There you go. I do know Borknagar, great band, but I've never heard this the White Void band.
White Boy?
White Void. Not
a White Void. I was going to say White Boy. What? Terrible name.
That is a terrible name. No, a White Void.
White Void. Okay, there we go. That's better.
Originally, less shitty.
Terrible name.
Oh, that's gonna be in the takeaways.
If it's white though, is it really a void? Because it isn't supposed to be clear.
Yeah. You'd have to write the Norwegians about that. I could not comment. I never heard of it until like an hour ago. What's that?
I'm just saying, maybe it's lost in translation. Maybe they, for them, it's like an expression that's meaning.
Yeah, who knows?
Noise.
Good point. The next one he wanted me to do was actually an album I do like a lot. It's a newer band. Kind of falls into that newer occult rock, like Devil's Blood, obviously one of my favorites. And that is the first Jess and the Ancient Ones from Finland. So this is they got a little more like 60s rock, a little more psychedelic, but this one's just like really heavy, molten, like just like I guess like more like Ghost, Devils, but like a lot of those newer bands. This came out, I don't think a full decade ago, but a couple years ago. But this is a really, really good album. And check out the song. I can tell you right away, as soon as you mention this, the second or third song on this album is called Sulfur Giants. It was in my head for like weeks and weeks when I bought this. It's so fucking good. So I'd recommend checking that song on YouTube. I know Nick would agree.
He sent me that one, and it's a really great record.
It was awesome. And in that same token, this band I think is from Minnesota, but the same style, like a newer occult rock band, is the first band from Jack Stoth. The singer's name is Jessica Thoth, and she changed it to Jack Stoth for this band. It's the same style. Vocals are very like smoky, ethereal, like that kind of sound. It's not really like aggressive, like hard hitting. It's got that very subdued, kind of almost psychedelic sound. Nick's not here to tell the story, but I'll relay it for him. I know twice he saw this band on 2 separate occasions. They're up there on the stage, they're playing. They go into like an extended instrumental break. The singer, she lights this little thing of incense, and then she just disappears from the stage. And everybody, you know, you don't see where she went. She went off stage. And then Nick's like, out of nowhere, she just, boom, appeared right in front of me in the middle of the crowd, just handed me the little thing of incense and just like went back on the stage. Just like, the fuck did you come from? Like, you just appeared in front of me. So he said it happened to 2 concerts. I'm like, I don't know, buddy. That's getting kind of weird, you know. It happens 3 times, the hat trick, you know. I don't know.
What's he supposed to do with that now that she gave it to him?
That's what he said. He's like, I have this like burning thing in my hand, like this crowded venue. I'm like, what do I do with this? You know, I'm just holding it. But I only saw them once. They played at when they played Maryland Death Fest a couple years ago. So obviously that's more of a metal thing, the big venue and stuff. But they were great. They kicked ass. They were really good. Came off 100%. It was at a nice venue in Baltimore called the Ram's Head, which is like a really big professional venue. Great sound. Yeah. Awesome place, like multi-tiered. So it's like the Chance of Poughkeepsie, but I want to say more like bigger and more professional, more modern, not an old theater. No, they were great. So that is his last choice is Jack Stoth.
Cool. All right, so I'm going to stick with my original 5. All right.
Good job.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So, and I know we're running long, so I'll go quickly on these, and then we'll do everybody's honorables, but just basically mention the album real quick. We don't need explanations and all that kind of stuff, because I know we've been on for a while already. Uriah Heep, very heavy, very humble. All right. Gotta have Montrose, self-titled debut. Gotta have Boston, self-titled debut. And this was tough because I have others that I'm looking at. I'm like, how could I not pick those? But, you know, got to go with your favorites, right? The first Kiss album, self-titled. And then gotta have Queen, first Queen album. You know, it's like, it's really hard when you're like trying to decide between this or like the first Jimi Hendrix Experience album, right? But it's like, and that's amazing. But I listen to this more. I mean, this is a hell of a lot to me, you know? So it's tough. It's tough picking. There's a lot of good stuff I'm looking at over here. And
I'm surprised nobody picked that first Hendrix, honestly. I thought about it and I put it back. I thought everybody was going to pick it.
I did the exact same thing. I thought that's too obvious.
I fucking love that album.
Yeah, I do too. But I'd say, you know, and again, if it's number 6, that's not a bad thing, right?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. All right. So like I said, if everybody wants to just throw out a couple of honorables, again, you don't really need to describe them or anything like that. Louis, what do you got?
Well, I'm surprised nobody picked this.
Yeah.
That's Ryan.
It's close. You thought I was going to pick, right? I purposely did not pick that.
And I don't know. To me, this is again heavier hard rock. It's not prog metal or anything. I don't know why they're an Inside Out, but Dead Soul Tribe, the first record.
Oh wow!
It's a very good hard rock album. This is a really good.
Who is that?
Dead Soul Tribe.
Yeah, Devin Graves is the singer, and
Psychotic
my
Waltz.
favorite album by them is Lullabies for the Devil, but the opener is a great record.
That's a good album. Yep.
And there's others, but let's just have other people weigh in.
Okay, Rick.
Well, without mentioning the one that's mentioned, I'm glad Pete told me to be prepared, so I can still sleep at night. Bad Company. Gotta do it. I mean, I like it for 21st century music, Black Country Communion. That's a hard rock, capital H. Foreigner's first record. You gotta give it, you know it. I like Shooting Stars' first album. I think that kicked ass too. Yep. Moxie. And Scream, which is the one album wonder, but they really had an explosive album. Too bad that it didn't have another one to follow. And they're not one of my favorite of this band, but you can't deny. I mean, they're back on tour for it. The Black Hole Shake Your Money Maker. I love a lot more of the albums as they mature, but this is a big album. And then for my buddy Mike Portnoy out there, Winery Dog, what a great mark. Talk about classic hard rock in the 21st century. This is it.
That is Rocco's favorite.
Yeah. All right, Martin, how about you?
Well, I just had a list that had Badlands on it. I had Black Sabbath on it, but that again was before I, knew that there was going to be this distinction, and even more so, I had the first Machine Head when I, thought it was heavy metal included. Metallica, I had Rush as well. I had the first Budgie. I had the first Maiden, but that would go on the metal show. I had the first Cheap Trick as well.
Yeah.
And two that would go on the show, and one obviously had Fastway, but another one was the first Twisted Sister album as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Sydney.
Definitely Badlands. Now that I can't believe I forgot that. That's just like sacrilege to me. I'm gonna have to like repent in some way because that's just like devastating. But Badlands. Also now that we made the distinction Tesla, I would definitely put up there. I also grabbed the first AC/DC record, High Voltage. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Also, the first Led Zeppelin. I mean, I know we talked about this, but Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You is one of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs in the whole world. I'm sure I'm forgetting a bunch, but that's what I got.
Cool.
Me?
Which?
I have a bunch. I didn't bring props, so I'll make it fast. But I did have Bad Company and Foreigner on my list. The debut Night Ranger record, Dawn Patrol, awesome.
Yeah.
The debut record from City Boy, Mike Slamer. God knows I love that guy to death.
Yep, good choice.
The debut Babies record.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Brilliant. The River Dogs, Vivian Campbell. I love that record.
Yep.
I'm gonna steal this one from you. The debut Trapeze. Brilliant. I'll throw this one into Bang Tango. I love the debut Bang Tango record. I'll defend that to all ends of the earth. I love that record. But here's a great one that no one mentioned at all. One and Done, HSAS.
Yeah. Cool. Yep, good choice. And actually, Butch, that Trapeze Medusa is actually their second album. They had a first album which sounds like the Moody Blues, was totally unlike that.
Well, I didn't say Medusa. I
so
just
you
said
are thinking
Trapeze.
of that first one.
Yeah, I just said that. Yeah. Not not the greatest, but it's Glenn Hughes.
It is
like
Glenn Hughes.
19 years old.
Yeah, that's true.
Say no more.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ryan, you got any?
I got two. I'll tell you real quick. In 2009, I went to see the band Pentagram, the American doom metal band, at Webster Hall in Manhattan. And this band I had never heard of. I opened up that show. So I'm up against the stage, ready to see Pentagram. And this band comes out from the Netherlands, and they just blew me through the back fucking wall. They were so good. They ended up probably being my favorite modern hard rock. They're a little metal, but not really. Wearing the shirt, and that is The Devil's Blood, Netherlands. And this is their first album. Time of No Time Evermore. I had to grab the vinyl for this. It's like a modern occult hard rock band, but just the songwriting, the vocals, the soulfulness of it. Oh man, I love this album so much. They only put out 2 albums, unfortunately, and then their main songwriter and guitarist Salem Lamucci killed himself, and the band ended. And then the second one is a couple years later. The rest of the band, minus him, obviously, the vocalist was his sister. Name was Farida, but her stage name was the Mouth of Satan, and she has an amazing voice. So they regrouped as a band with a very strange moniker, but again, maybe lost in translation. I can't say, but I love the album. They came out with this last year. The band is called Molasses, and the album is Through the Hollow, and this is on.
It is black.
Season of Mist. So this is pretty easy to get.
Dark as molasses, yeah.
I don't know what's up with that name. I don't think it's as good as Devil's Blood. I think missing Selim is the main songwriter. Something's missing. It's just not as good. But I mean, I love them so much. This is, if that's 10 out of 10, this is 8 out of 10. Still very good. And I do have one more. I just grabbed it off the shelf. I guess it's kind of hard rock, maybe post-punk, like new wave, whatever, but hasn't been mentioned at all. And that's the Cars. And
I was so
that's a great debut.
but I thought it was more new wave than hard rock, so that's why I strayed away from it. But
that's valid. Yeah, I mean, it really is a new wave album, but it's like Boston. Every single song was.
I mean, it has its moments, but then I mean, like, I feel like it's just got a more like kind of like just a new wave vibe to it than hard rock. Because I feel like
it's definitely the more harder rocking of all their albums.
Yeah.
Got that.
That's what I've been listening to a lot too. It's just it's so good.
What made me think of it was talking about Boston, where it's like one of those rare albums where every single song was on the radio. It's like Led Zeppelin 4. Every fucking song was on the radio. It's just that good of an album. Yeah. It's just every song is a hit. It's really catchy. So got to bring that up.
Yeah. Finest work for sure.
It is.
All right, I'm going to stick to stuff that has not been mentioned at all by anybody.
Waiting for one. One has not been mentioned yet. I'm waiting for one. There it is.
Black Rainbow, the debut.
Everybody was gonna pick that one. That was one that I thought Pete was
gonna pick. I thought too. Yeah.
That's funny. Maybe this is metal. I don't know.
I thought Martin was gonna pick
that one's. I think the first one's hard rock for sure.
But remember we did a show a couple weeks ago where we were all finished, everybody's done, and I'm like, you know what? We forgot somebody. We did it again. We forgot ZZ Top. That first album.
No, I didn't. I looked it up. It's not my favorite. I don't dislike it.
I love the debut,
but it's really good. It's like really good.
Second better than the first.
I'm pissed that I didn't pick that because I love that debut album.
Yeah,
it is really good.
Great record, man.
It is. It's an awesome blues.
First Vandenberg.
Yeah,
I see, but I thought that was on the metal side.
Yeah, it could go either way, right?
It's a great record.
Self-titled Wishbone Ash, amazing album. Definitely a hard rock record. Again.
Great album.
Got to talk about Jimi Hendrix here. I'm amazed nobody picked this one, but again, maybe you guys thought it might be a little more on the metal side. The first Michael Schenker Group album.
I did think about it, but it's not my favorite.
I thought it was more metal on the metal side.
Yeah, I like you better than one.
The first Grand Funk Railroad album, On Time.
That's good too. That is.
Dreamboat Annie by Hearts.
I did think of that.
On my list.
The first Government Mule album.
Oh,
great album.
Oh boy.
I'm amazed Martin didn't pick this one. Ted Nugent.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
That is an amazing first record.
That's a great album.
The first Cactus album.
Oh God.
And last but not least, gotta go with Jeff Beck, Truth.
It's a goodie.
Oh wait, hold on. One more. Sir Lord Baltimore, the debut crushing heavy album.
I forget that.
I only just grabbed that like right as we started recording. I was like, oh crap.
Amazing album.
You know?
Yeah,
Well, it's safe to say that we covered our bases all the way around with everybody.
So, right? Yeah. Jeez,
Yeah, there'll always be somebody though. I'm curious as to what they're going to say we left out of this.
Well, we didn't really touch on a lot of like there's a lot of really recent stuff, like a lot of these great Swedish hard rock bands like Graveyard and Witchcraft and all those type of bands who have a lot of really good debuts, but we could be here all night doing that.
Yeah,
Light Orchestra.
Yeah.
Vintage Caravan.
Graveyard is a great band.
Yeah.
From Iceland.
Yep.
I just want to know why Ryan omitted BOC, and I know that's in your top for real.
Oh, Butch, it definitely is. And I was like, I picked it out, and I'm like, you know what? I wanted to pick stuff I didn't talk about a lot. I know I talk about BOC a lot,
right?
But obviously, if you put a gun to my head and you say, what's your favorite hard rock band of all time? It's probably going to be Blue Oyster Cult. Like, I fucking love it.
So you knew what I was thinking.
I thought I should have pulled it out as an honorable mention, but I figured someone else was going to pick it because those early BOC albums when they were really fucking weird, like that stuff is timeless. All those albums are so good.
Secret Treaties is my favorite.
They're with you.
Production just wasn't great to me.
So, all right, so
it was a little bit better.
And kind of since we're talking about it, as the last thing we cover here today, everybody quickly name your favorite Blue Oyster Cult album. Rick.
Oh, Secret Treaty.
Lewis just said Secret Treaties. Butch.
Cultosaurus erectus.
I know what Martin says, but go ahead and say it anyway.
Mirrors. We did a Contrarians episode on
it. There you go. Sydney.
Agents of Fortune, probably.
Okay. And Ryan?
Tyranny Mutation, the second one. It's actually my favorite. First one I heard.
Cool. And Secret Treaties for me. So there you go. Little BOC love at the end of our episode. So there you have it, everybody. We went a little long tonight, but I think it was worth it. A lot of good conversation here and a lot of good albums talked about. So I want to thank our regulars and our guests tonight for making this a spectacular show. And
for having us.
In the comments below, please list some of your favorite hard rock debuts, no matter what the era. It'd be interesting to see what everybody comes up with. And visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're on YouTube all the damn time. Make sure, let's go around here. So we got Sonus Umbra. If you get a chance to go see them playing, go check out Luis. He's the bass player in that fine progressive rock band. Martin, go to martinpopoff.com for all of his books that are currently available. The Contrarians, Banger TV, of course, every Friday morning here with me on Sea of Tranquility. Make sure you go over to Facebook to the Butcher Shop and check out all Butch's cool stuff, and of course all sorts of good stuff that is for sale. Sydney, what's going on over on the podcast Metal from the Inside?
Yeah, I just had Ace Von Johnson on. He's a guitar player in this really cool kind of like new wave-ish band, Neon Coven. He's also right now in the kind of recent reincarnation of LA Guns. He's really cool. We talk a lot of things like horror, what he's doing. Got some cool stuff in the works coming up. Yeah, just every Friday, new episodes.
Cool. And don't forget Martin's podcast too, as well, which is also really cool. And Rick's got a new album in the works, correct? You want to talk
Yes, that's coming out in the fall. I got some good friends in the community, and plus people like guys from Uriah Heep and friends from Pat Travers Band and a few others. Tea Party drummers on it. So it's a network of great friends. And you can get a sneak preview of what's coming on the album on Spotify, iTunes, or on YouTube by going Rick LaBonte, Let It Show. Just a taste of what's coming out there. But honestly, every song is different. And every personality I bring to the record brings something to the table to help that, what I'm looking for. So anyway, yeah, I'm glad to be a part of the team, and count me in anytime you guys need a fill-in. I enjoyed it. It's kind of a blessing to be able to have a network and of people like we do. And it's in our DNA that we got to talk music like we need food and water and oxygen. And I'm glad I met some people tonight.
There you go. Cool. And of course, Ryan Scow, you can find here on Sea of Tranquility all the damn time, goofing around with the rest of us, right? So thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. For Martin Popoff, Sydney Taylor, Butch Jones, Luis Nasser, Rick LaBonte, Ryan Scow, I am Pete Pardo. See you all next Monday night. Stay tuned tomorrow for In the Prague Seat, and lots more fun stuff coming up this week. So take care, everybody, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Peace.